better and better. I am going to invite the team from Connecticut to join us on the stage. In Connecticut, state leaders gave students a role in their pandemic recovery effort, and we want to share that story with you. Connecticut invested more than $1.5 million in a statewide competition called Voice4Change that empowered young people to propose ideas for how the state should use ESSER funds to better their school communities. So in this session, we want to hear from 2 students and a teacher at Danbury High School, one of the recipients of the Voice4Change grant. I want to introduce you to Chapel Bovser, a former student at Danbury High School in Danbury, Connecticut. Chapel is currently a freshman at the University of Connecticut Stores, where he is majoring in finance. Very impressive. Viviana Flores, former student at Danbury High School. She is currently a first-year student at Fordham University, Lincoln Center in New York City, where she is majoring in international political economy with double minors in sociology and psychology. Phew. And Heather Lawrence, a law, government, and politics teacher at Danbury High School. And prior to teaching, Heather worked as a staff attorney for the 11th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals and in private practice. And the moderator for our panel today is Connecticut Commissioner of Education, Charlene Russell Tucker, who has been spearheading the state's K-12 pandemic recovery investments, including the very innovative Voice4Change program. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our incredible panel today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I hope first you're understanding the incredible folks we have as students and those educators in our classroom. So thank you very much. I'm excited as Commissioner of Education to highlight the Voice4Change initiative in Connecticut, centering student voice, a first of its kind participatory budgeting and statewide civic engagement initiative. Voice4Change empower high school students to propose and vote on how $1.5 million of our ESSER funds would be invested in Connecticut schools. The initiative is grounded in our Connecticut State Board of Education's 5-year plan, Equity and Excellence for All Connecticut Students, with pledges to prepare our students to thrive in a global economy and civic life, and to challenge your students to think critically and to solve real-world problems. So students in Connecticut in high school submitted proposals to the department outlining how they would spend $20,000. That's real money in our schools. Projects needed to address one of our 5 ESSER-funded investment priorities that we establish across our ESSER funds, not just for our districts, but also for how the state would spend its set-aside funding. And I know you want to know those 5 funding priorities: learning acceleration, academic renewal, student enrichment was the first. Family and community connections, we know how important that is as well. Social, emotional, and mental health support for students and, yes, our school staff. Strategic use of technology, and building safe and healthy schools. And just so you know, if the projects submitted, 80% of those projects that students submitted, they told us very clearly mental health, behavioral health was really important to them. And so projects were in that vein. Additionally, learning acceleration also had a nice spot on how many projects were submitted, and building safe and healthy schools. We received over 200 proposals, and after a vigorous legal and fiscal review of those proposals, 147 of them from 54 high schools were eligible to be placed on the local ballot for students to vote on. Students had a 2-week campaigning period, yes, and there were campaign rules that they had to follow, and they did a great job in doing that. And they were able to do that. And then there was an actual an election day, where they all voted for the projects, which is really great. Over nearly 17,000 students in Connecticut voted on these projects. 59 projects across 54 high schools are being implemented now, impacting over 50,000 students. Projects designed for students by students included food insecurity, outdoor classroom spaces, peer learning program to support students with disabilities, to play instruments. We saw that one recently. Awesome. Vocational certification program designed to give students career-ready skills, and more. And you should know, we also have the Commissioner's Choice Awards, of course. There were 5 projects that were funded that did not win on their school ballot, but they were particularly innovative and creative and deemed worthy of funding on their own merit. So now that I've got you on the edge of your seats about this Voice for Change initiative, let's hear from our students and also our teacher. I'm so impressed with what they've done, and they are representing all our Voice for Change participants across the state here. Danbury High School, largest high school in our state, did a phenomenal job, and the teacher, Heather, was the one that really initiated the work there. So I'll start, Heather, with you. Danbury High School submitting 17 proposals in this initiative. That was the most proposals that we received from any one high school. So Heather, how did you integrate Voice for Change initiative into your classroom? First question. And what did the process look like for you as students were applying for the grant?
Thank you, Commissioner. And thank you all for having us. And I just want to say a quick thank you to my colleagues back at home at Danbury High School. I couldn't do this work without their collegiality. When I first heard about the initiative, I immediately thought about the application to my classroom. I teach civics, I teach AP Government and Politics in a pre-law class. And so I reached out to my principal, Dan Donovan, and my superintendent, Kevin Walston, and I said, we need to do this. Can I do this? Can I lead it out? And they were like, go for it. And so I immediately took your initiative and I kind of worked it backwards. Like, what were the skills that my students were going to need to learn in order to get to the project proposal portion of it? And so through that, we integrated a lot of the knowledge from their government and politics class. And I started with them brainstorming, like, what were the issues that they felt at DHS that needed to be addressed. And we also analyzed the state's funding priorities to ensure that we were staying within the parameters of the project guidelines. Students then, after the brainstorming, they interviewed our principal and had a roundtable discussion with him. And then they talked to teachers, other students, other stakeholders in our community. They then chose topics blindly based on their passion. I really encourage them to pick a first and second choice that they felt passionate about, because doing the work, as we all know, we're in this because we're passionate about it. It's much easier to do the work when you're passionate. And so they chose projects. They teamed up in groups of 2 or 3. I created a graphic organizer for them to research what they would need in order to complete the project proposal. We wrote first drafts, we peer edited, I edited, and then we finally wrote final proposals and submitted the project in the classroom. Once we received the approval from the state that our most of our projects could go forward, we started the campaign. And as you said, there were rules.
There were rules.
Yes. And at DHS, we are, as you said, the largest high school in Connecticut. We also have the largest percentage of our student population are multi-language learners. We are at 33%, which is also the largest percentage in Connecticut. And so when we thought about campaigning, we really kept in mind the diversity of our student population and their needs. So some of the campaign rules was that everybody was going to create like a campaign commercial, because if we could show videos, we could have the closed captioning changed to their preferred language. We also had the election form was on Google Forms, so that also could be translated into their preferred language. We had a huge percentage of our school population actually participate in the voting. It was like 85% approximately, which is, I think, pretty huge. And then In terms of the types of projects that students chose, again, DHS is the largest school. It's very diverse. It's also under-resourced. And so a lot of the students' projects were really based on, I think, what most of us would think are basic needs in a school. And I know Chapel's project that he's going to talk about is going to be an example of that. 50% of our students are economically disadvantaged. And so the students' projects reflect that, and their the submissions that they made, their projects were really focused on the needs of the student population.
So thank you, Heather. And what you're hearing is that she, number one, as a teacher, was totally engaged in the process, connecting with the students and helping them work through the process. But let's hear from the students and what it felt like for them. So Chapel, your proposal addressed a key and timely need around your school to update school water fountains and increase accessibility. This was something you saw as a need, but also the students, it won the student vote. So how did you and your peers come up with a proposal, and how did you rally them for the vote? Because you had many other programs on the ballot in Danbury High School.
Thank you, Commissioner, and good morning, y'all. So the project that I came up with was about replacing and reinstalling new water fountains at Danbury High School. We have a student and staff faculty population of 3,400 people, a lot of people. And we had two working water fountains, and they were both porcelain, they were both old, and sometimes they didn't work. They were on opposite sides of the building. A friend and I had Miss Lorenz, fourth block, AP Government Politics. And, looking for water after lunch, it takes 10 minutes, and it's an AP class. So a lot of times we would end up pushing classwork into homework, or we would push, material off to the side. And we found that to be an issue. So we came up with the project. We saw that there was a $20,000 grant available. It was to better our schools. And we said, what is better than being better students and helping our future peers in being at a more resource school? So we went about it, and we secured funding for 12 new water fountains. All of them are metal, and they're have filling stations on them. So that creates the benefit of having, COVID-friendly installation, and they're also environmentally friendly because you're not relying on single-use water bottles as much as you were with the porcelain water fountains. Now, going about it, when we made the campaign video, I'm sure you've never heard this at a legislative conference. It's going to be a little creative the way we went about it. So me and my friend made the video, and it started out with us lifting weights at the athlete gym, and we went about it, and we said we're parched, and we said we need a water fountain, and we couldn't find a water fountain, so we skipped to a slide that said what it's like trying to find a water fountain at DHS. Then we showed videos of people climbing Mount Everest, people going across the Sahara on camels. And the funniest part, in my opinion, was when we showed a video of a man whitewater rafting up a river. And then at the end, it cut out with my partner pressing a water fountain and saying it doesn't work. So that was to resonate with the students that, look, we have an issue, it exists, and it needs to be fixed. And I think that was the main part that people related to. And that's why we were able to secure the vote for that.
Solving real world problems. So thank you, Chapel. Viviana, how has Voice4Change initiative empowered you within your school community? And what is the largest change that you see amongst your peers within the school community?
Sure. So I would say that the Voice4Change initiative really empowered me by providing an opportunity to act. I'd say that throughout my entire high school career, I always had thoughts and ideas on what could be better at Danbury High School, but there was never really a direct, tangible opportunity for me to speak on issues that were important to me, and let alone take steps towards implementing possible solutions. But with Voice for Change, I was motivated and empowered because I saw that there were people at Danbury High School, both staff and students alike, that shared the same passion for contributing to the DHS community as I did. And there was also now this state initiative to really elevate and amplify my voice as a student. So with that, I thought about what would be most academically beneficial for students at the time. And what I ultimately developed was a mentorship/internship program that was focused on giving students the opportunity to develop their real world skills and career oriented training. So even though my project was not chosen as one of the winners, I will say that the most rewarding part of working on Voice for Change was definitely getting to support my peers. I was working with friends and classmates of mine who I've known for years, who I've gone to school with for years. I would be remiss if I didn't mention my partner, Matthew. He's a great friend of mine. And we did, it was great working with him. But seeing them work on something that they were so passionate about and then also succeeding at something that they were so passionate about was truly incredible to watch. In terms of how Voice for Change impacted the DHS community, I would say it definitely spurred a revival of student engagement. And I use the word revival very intentionally because my senior year, being the year that we worked on Voice for Change, was also the first year that we were fully back in person since the pandemic. And coming out of online school and masks and social distancing and whatnot, I really noticed a decrease in engagement and really excitement for the entire high school experience as a whole. I remember my freshman year during Spirit Week, the courtyard would be bustling with students all dressed up, taking pictures with their friends and really excited about the week's festivities. But that seemed to really die out by my senior year. So with Voice for Change, it really revived that student engagement. And I saw students excited about working with their peers again, about engaging with their community again, and really leaving a lasting impact on DHS as a whole. And I continue to see that even as a graduate. I know Ms. Lorenz spearheaded some work to get advocacy on better funding for the Danbury district, and they organized a rally, they organized a day of action, they wrote to their city council members. So that's been really great to watch as well as an alumni. I'm grateful to see that the Voice for Change impact has perpetuated since I've graduated.
Oh, that's great. And that truly is what this is all about. When we talk about civic engagement and giving student voice, this is the kind of things that you see. So Chaplain Viviana, again, what did each of you learn? You've mentioned some of that from the Voice for Change initiative, but also how did this involvement, how is this translated into civic engagement as you now moved on to the university?
Sure. So I can start. I would say that Voice for Change definitely taught me a lot of, practical skills, how to put together a budget, how to advertise, how to put together a campaign, how to get people really excited about something that you're working on. And with Danbury High School being so big, I would also say that it taught me how to cater a message to a very diverse audience. But beyond that, Voice for Change taught me how to look at the world with a more critical and analytical eye. I think that now I'm constantly observing for important issues that impact communities, especially issues that might go unnoticed. And I think that I'm more committed to opportunities that give me the chance to develop possible solutions to those issues. And the great thing about that is that I landed at Fordham University, which is a uniquely Jesuit university. So it has such a strong commitment to service and doing more for yourself so that you're doing more for others. And I think that that's really pushed me to engage in civic action that not only impacts my immediate community, but the global community as well.
And before you jump in, the other thing, maybe an adult lesson here, and even if your project doesn't win, there's a way to even learn from that in moving forward, right? So that's great. Chaplain.
So I think the most important skill that I learned from the Voice for Change experience was advocacy. Danbury High School, again, like I said, it's a big school. It's very easy to get lost in the wind. And as much as our teachers try, and let me just say, we have some of the best teachers in the country. So to teachers sound out, I know you can't give me extra credit, but still the best teachers out there. So it's easy to get lost in the wind. It's not necessarily, you're going to get help, but if you want to be out there and be active in the community, you have to know how to stand up for yourself, how to give people what you want to do. And throughout our freshman year and our 2 years online, we were given those skills to be out there, be active, be ready to go. but we never were able to put it together on a community change project. And I know our senior year we came up with Capstone, but this really allowed us to go ahead and make a true community impact. And it really has shown how, advocacy learned in high school can have not just impact on your grades or impact on what you learn, but impact on your community. And now projects that we did here are going to impact teachers and students for years to come. And it's translated into my university experience. I go to the University of Connecticut in Stores. I had the unique opportunity of being appointed to the University Senate as a freshman. So that was something that I really,
That's awesome.
Thank you. When I was interviewing with the president, I was talking about, what would this role be? One of the things that was emphasized to me is that when it comes to, some of these professors have been there for 30 years, you got to be able to advocate for yourself and advocate for your peers. And if it wasn't for this project necessarily, that experience and that role and that ability would be, I want to say impossible, but it's hard. It's difficult to do. So that's how advocacy really played a large role, not only at high school, but also now in the future at my university.
And isn't that what education is truly all about? Just really thrilled about that. And I see you, Heather, smiling, looking at her students. I was with them this morning and she's still directing, and watching over, them. But the final question for you as you've listened to this and hopefully that there's a takeaway. And I so appreciate CCSSO allowing us to share across to each other what we're doing in our state so we can, hear something that may spark some idea in your state as well. What advice would you give, Heather, to our state leaders here today and across the country, those who are watching, who may hope to bring a similar initiative really focused on student voice to their school communities?
Go for it. It is such a great way to get our students' voice out there. In the end, that's what we're all doing this for, right? They're our constituents, and not just them, but all the stakeholders, the teachers, the parents. And as the students were saying, I have seen a revival of student engagement at the high school because of this project. As Viviana was speaking about, last year after we completed this project, the tragedy in Uvalde happened, and the students immediately were like, we have to do something. And within a week's time, well, maybe a little over a week, they planned out a day of action in which they had students sign petitions, and they were registering students to vote, the graduating seniors to vote before they went to college. They were taking action to let it be known that they were not okay with gun violence throughout this country, and especially in their schools. Again, this year, I was approached by a group of students in the UNICEF program, and they were concerned about the school funding in our district. Like I said, we're under-resourced. And so they took it upon themselves to also create a day of action and then a series of rallies and going to the city council and testifying about what it's really like at Danbury High School and what their needs are from their point of view, which I was approached by leaders in the community and said, this is unprecedented. We've never seen student engagement like this with our government. I didn't do that. Yes, I lead. Yes, I guide them, but I didn't do this. This came from them. And without having done this program, I'm not sure that would have happened in our community. And there's one more. We should talk about the special project. Something you want to...
The Commissioner's Choice Award in Danbury, when we looked, it didn't win on the ballot, but this was the only project in the Voice4Change initiative where students did something for their teachers.
Yes, we had one student group who wanted to do something on teacher mental health, which was one of the funding priorities, or is involved in the funding priority. And so we brainstormed together, and I took them down the hall and I said, hey, take a look at the faculty workroom. And they walked in and they walked around and they came out and they said, you have to work in there? And I said, yes, we have to work in this circa 1970s faculty workroom, because that's exactly what it looked like. And they wrote it and they said, we know we're never going to win, but we feel like this is really super important. And guess what?
They won Commissioner's Choice Award. But that is the kind of thing. Heather, thank you for sharing that. In wrapping up, when we did this proposal, we did a press conference with the governor, really making sure that we could get this information out. Our lieutenant governor, we visited schools together, just highlighting before the vote occurred. And now that this implementation is occurring, we're doing visits to schools. We've been going out to school districts with legislators who are now going into schools and watch this program at work. We were just recently at a school just watching where things were happening so well that the district voted the board to make it a part of their regular curriculum based on what's there. Students' project that may not have been funded or being looked at to seed other funding that districts are looking for that's available to them. So it is a voice for change. Don't ever underestimate what our students are able to do. They've got the genius to do it and accomplish it. And we just need to kind of get out of the way, help provide the resources that's necessary. But that is what we have. And across our country, this is just a small piece of what we're able to do, and why we do the work we do every single day is so that they can be the best that they can be in our country, in our state, and in the nation. Thank you also very much for allowing us to share this with you. Thank you.